All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us for our Monday Zoom and Learns. We do these every week to add value to you and your clients. The only weeks that we don't do them are when it is a holiday week. But we are excited to have you all here. We are currently about 40 people in the meeting. We will record this as well, so it will be available to watch the replay. My name is Tommy Dutcher. I'm the area sales manager for California Title. If we haven't had the opportunity to meet, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to sit down with you as an agent or a broker, even a TC, see how I can help you and your business grow. My contact is tommyfortitle.com. All my information's there, and that's Tommy, the number 4 title.com. And my co-hosts, plural, today are Mary Jane Morris and Samantha Hayes, and I will let Mary Jane introduce her and her team, as well as our speaker today, or our teacher today, I should say.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Happy to have you. As I said, things are starting to get past the holidays and past the end of the year, and we've had a wild week of openings this week. It's been very exciting. It seems everybody's back to work. So welcome to 2022. This whole month, we've been catching everybody up on the RPA and the new laws and defensible space, all the things that kind of happened toward the end of the year that we thought would need to be repeated into the new year. I just went over very briefly the delivery method in the RPA is getting missed from the new contract. That you please do fill this out when you do your transactions, and we can talk more about that later. But today we have, as always, the wonderful Samantha Hayes to talk to us about what new laws affected real estate this year. And I will be here to comment and support you, Sam. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to do a lot of pretty much regurgitating what I've read or looked up. I am not a legal expert in any way, shape, or form. I am going to definitely tell you verify all with your broker of record, but we'll get through this all together. As always, thank you so much to both of you for having me. I greatly appreciate being on the team. My name is Samantha Hayes. I have been a transaction coordinator for almost 19 years. I'm C.A.R. certified. I'm a certified forms trainer, WIN forms trainer, done over 67,000 of these transactions, 6,700 of these, I should say. And I just love forms. So I love sharing my nerding out, and I'm here to help anytime I can, even if I'm not TC on the file. So we're going to jump right into it right now. The big one that we all know that we've talked about last week is SB 63. This now includes moderate inside of the very high and high fire zone areas that we have on the FHDS. The RLA will change again. Oh, that didn't get updated. That was supposed to get pulled. That'll actually get updated in July. So that should be the one. We will get a new form. It's not going to be till July. Currently, with the handouts I will give you at the end of the presentation, I'm going to send a bunch of documents into the chat. Right now, they're saying don't rely on the NHD maps as well. What does that mean? We're not supposed to rely on the CAL FIRE maps. We're not supposed to rely on the NHD maps. So what you're going to need to do is, as usual, we do not investigate. We cannot investigate if these are important issues. They need to be investigated by both the seller and the buyer. What we can do is provide the information and say, these are issues that we're aware of. These are responsibilities you have. I would highly suggest having your sellers contact their local fire department to start there. Again, this law came about during everything through COVID. Nobody's really prepared for it. No, there have not been any lawsuits yet, but as we discussed last week, none of us want to be the poster child for that. So I personally am erring on the side of caution, talking to my brokers and clients I'm working with. We're going ahead and including the form on all of our files. We are marking that because currently the FHDS does not say moderate. We're marking that it's not in a high fire, very high fire zone. However, you need to verify with your broker of record, pay attention as this keeps evolving, and just know that this summer is going to be pretty busy with some updates between June and July. Let's see, okay, you're not forwarding either. There are some new laws regarding the HOAs. There's some, I'm going to go pretty generic on this because I am not an HOA expert. AB 502 is regarding the HOA elections. AB 1101 modified the financial practices. Basically that they couldn't be, the HOAs could not be risking the owner's funds, that they cannot be commingling them, putting them in anything that is a high risk situation. Those funds are supposed to be there for repairs or any needs of the HOA. This is not something to gamble with. I'm not sure what happened, but obviously something got a little dicey. So this is one you're going to want to check out on the DRE website for a little bit more information, especially if you're more involved with coordinating with HOAs, ordering HOA documents, or part of an HOA board. The one that's, oh, go.
Our own HOA that was just asked to stop this. They did some minor stock investment, supposedly for our benefit, but they were just asked to stop this as well.
My personal guess, and I have nothing to base this off of other than just, it sounds like to me, probably trying to make up funds, take advantage, trying to do something beneficial, but you're risking funds that aren't yours. And these are not stockbrokers. So, and HOAs are getting more and more regulated. There's more, every year, more laws are coming out regarding the HOAs. So I think we're going to see this be a continuing pattern. It's kind of the theme through all of the laws that I went through, is it's a lot of cleanup and going, okay, they had time to get some stuff reined in. This one is going to be more what affects a lot of us when dealing with transactions with HOAs. The SB 392, that they have to actually provide them in email. Now, they don't have to do them as attachments. They don't have to, they can do a link. But if you request your documents in email, they have to provide the documents in email now. They cannot say we only do paper copies. And I know that's going to be a huge change for some of the timeframes and turnarounds that we run into sometimes, especially with self-managed and some of the older HOA companies. We're getting a new form. We're not getting a new form till June, but we're getting a new form. This is going to be attached to the contract so that it's not an issue. So this is going to be like your possible representation of one or more buyer and seller, your fair housing, your wire fraud, the commercial or consumer protection, all of that. This one will be another one that'll be added. So it will be automatically in your packet every time you generate an RPA. And this is going to be letting people know about any anti-bias appraisal disclosure. If this disclosure is not provided prior to going under contract, it automatically creates a statutory ability to cancel. So it's going to be a big deal. This is going to be another one where people can wiggle out on it. They don't expect that form, I don't believe, till we'll see a revision in June when they do the document, the update of all the forms. But be prepared, we're going to have one more that we're going to have on our checklist. And this is going to be of that level of importance that you want it signed with the offer. Our training is also going to be expanded. Implicit bias training will start January 1st, 2023. So right now it's 8 hours to renew or obtain your license. It will now go to 9. This will be required for anybody renewing their license or getting a license after 2023. It'll be a new class. They have not disclosed all the information, but it will be additional training. This was an interesting one about foreclosure sales. I know that's been a topic of everybody's interest because of what's going on with COVID, and everybody's expecting this wave that we all know is kind of not happening. But this is changing some of the, it's taking away a loophole situation that somebody can't go back in and bid, or a family member can't go back and bid and try and take the house back when you've lost it, when you're holding it, their trust, or if you're holding it as a different entity. It's just kind of a cleanup of going through and mitigating some mortgage fraud potentials. I don't think this is one we're probably going to deal with that much or have seen that much. However, it was interesting that it's enough that there was a law created for it. And I think it was to head off potential problems like some of those we saw in 2008, 2010, back when we dealt with the recession and everything. Emotional support animals. This is not going to change the laws about the emotional support animals. What this is going to do is create more of a regulation regarding the documentation. So I can't arbitrarily make my parakeet or, my snake, my emotional support animal. I can't just sign up online and poof, my animal is a support animal. There's now going to be a minimum time frame that individual, whoever issues the certificate, will have met with and talked to the owner of said animal as well as there's very specific language that will have to be included. So, and to obtain that specific language and that certification, you're going to have to be checking in with the state and everything else. So it's trying to crack down so that there's not as much of a gray area. However, it was very clear, this does not change the state and federal laws. This does not mean suddenly you can be like, well, I don't like the type of dog you're bringing in, so now I'm not going to have to accommodate you. That's not how it works. It's just to cut down on the people that are maybe using that as more of a loophole than those that actually need their support animals.
I was surprised on this of how that's working right now. Like, my daughter went off to college, and with the apartment that she rented, she has a support dog that's been her dog for a while, and she was taking it with her. And they were like, all she had to say was, I have a support dog. They weren't able to charge her a pet deposit. They weren't able to deny her having a pet. And she offered to show the paperwork, and they're like, nope, we don't need to see it. So it was kind of like, okay.
Yeah, it's been really loosey-goosey because people are so afraid of potential lawsuit, and where this is going to help kind of give something back for landlords to be able to get the appropriate documentation. If you need it, definitely it's something you should be able to use. But unfortunately, as we all know, when there's an opportunity, not everybody's a nice person and they can take advantage of things.
Yeah.
As of July 1st, if the city or county, they get a notice from a tenant, resident, occupant, or their agent, then they have to go in, investigate for lead-based paint, lead hazards, as well as provide certified copies of the reports. So now the city actually has to respond. They can't say something's arbitrary or blow it off. They actually have to go in and deal with it. I think we're going to see more. I think we'll probably see a change to the lead-based paint disclosure based off of this. You'll probably see some changes in some of the lease paperwork as well as this comes up to address it and be ready for explaining what goes to where. So if you, like myself, got married, and I was known as Markram for 16 years. I had multiple people have no idea. That's why I still have to put parentheses Markram, who I am. I could still now go back and be Markram and do all my business staying in Markram as long as I have both Hayes and Markram on register with the DRE. So it's letting anybody who has been, as myself, established with a certain name, they finally realize it's fine. You just have to have both names on file with the DRE so they know how to find you. This is a really interesting one, and this one's going to be more that Tommy and MJ are going to need to speak to, but this is a big one about, as we know, we're now getting to the point in San Diego County that we've got properties that are over 100 years old, and laws in life was very different then. And there are some restrictions and covenants written into the CCNRs in the prelims, even if you're not in an HOA or those type of situations, that have some discriminatory language and restrictive about the type of individual, whatever flavor, can purchase the property. A lot of people will go through and read those and be so morally offended, even though we already have that cover letter that goes on top explaining that these are not valid any longer. They do not apply. So it's been a very challenging previously. It's just been a red tape hassle to have those items removed. This law has made it that now the county recorder has to have a program where they're actively removing that verbiage on top of the fees, and everything are waived, because this is putting on, and I think we will see another new disclosure when we do our revisions in June, that if the agent, because as an agent, if you're looking through the prelim, you're going to see the CCNRs. If you become aware of this, you bring this to the principal's attention and you let the principal know that they can have this removed prior to close of escrow at no fee. So this is going to be interesting to see what program the county recorder rolls out and how this interacts with title and escrow. And I'm interested on what Tommy and MJ think about it and what you guys are planning on doing.
I was thinking this was a lot like all the country music stars changing their last names from, the Dixie Chicks to just the Chicks, and Lady Antebellum to just Lady A, and that sort of thing. I think there's a wisdom, if you will, I'll put it in a positive way if I can, that we're all starting to understand what implicit bias is. And they're combing for this kind of, the comment about Black people and colors was very plainly written before we had to redact that. So I bet they're looking for that kind of language of any sort. It may be an overreaction, but it doesn't hurt to look. And then the people that they're putting the pressure on to do it, they're not charging us anything for it. So at this time, I'd like to think that it's improvement in thinking, if nothing else.
Well, I definitely know that each county is supposed to go through and do this. So county recorder, we should expect to see some promotion regarding rolling out their programs of removing this or how to get these items removed quickly. Granted, again, rolling this out during while we're still in this flux time of who's in the office, who's not, it's gonna be interesting to see the response, but it's supposed to be able to be dealt with during the transaction. Even if you initiate it to be removed, it may be removed after the transaction closes, but that it's in process.
And it will be.
Yeah.
The counties are taking a stance on it in a different fashion. Is they are all saying that they are going to look at this because all this stuff is all driven. So everybody knows it's kind of attached to the legal description of the properties, right? So when you look at that, it's not as quick as just, flipping a switch and everything's done. This is something that has to be done on a one-on-one basis. And it's something that most counties, at least in Southern California that I can speak to, have already presented their game plan and have shown that they will be looking for title companies, escrow companies, et cetera, that are seeing these discrepancies that are still in there from hundreds of years ago and bringing it to the attention. The property will close as it normally does, and then they will look at it after it closes in how they can go about altering the legal description and such. So it's going to be a lengthy process. This is not something that is going to be taken care of in 2023. This will be
such a big project
thing.
that,
And it's worse in certain counties. LA is the worst of Southern California when it pertains to this. But ultimately, they're going to look at it on a one-off as they ongoing go on. So this will linger over at least probably the next 5 years.
that's a really big project, and I think the intention is if we can point them out, they can get them removed.
Yeah. And that's really what it's going to come down to, because they don't have the manpower, nowhere they ever have the manpower to sit there and look at property by property legal descriptions and dissect them. Like it just,
Right.
It would never happen. So it's gonna happen as properties change hands, ongoing, really.
That's kind of what I figured too. It's just going to be more on our end. I feel that it's going to be a disclosure or something just to say, hey, this is what's going on. I've made you aware of it. You have the ability to have this removed. Here's who you talk to. So I'm expecting to see something come about in our June updates and forms, along with all the other ones that we're going to be having.
I'll be honest, I don't even know if we'll see something like that. And the reason why is because most people never read the legal description of the property. So it doesn't come up as often as one would think, but because it has come up enough to rattle enough feathers, right, in the legal system, that they're making it a point, right? But I don't know if we'll see something that says, here's a disclosure, because be honest, most agents are not going to be able to decipher that legal description of what is right and what is wrong.
Problem is the verbiage they use saying has knowledge, the agent or brokers, because the way they worded it in the law, that's my concern, that they're going to come back and do a disclosure to protect a lawsuit against an agent. And I agree with you that they don't have that education, but it's because of the way they worded it. I have a funny feeling to protect everybody, or they're going to have to do a revision of how this is worded, because right now it's put on the broker agent to share the information.
Yeah. And ultimately, you're going to probably see in most cases a comment like, see preliminary title report.
Right.
You know what I mean? Taking it off of you and be like, the legal description is all there and all the information on the property is there. It's up to you to decipher it. And more than likely, most brokers will probably give that direction, right? Is that you don't go into explanation. You simply refer them to where they can find the data.
Exactly. That's where I think it's kind of like, yet again, it's one of those where they're not meeting in the middle, understanding who does what.
Correct.
Okay, let's see. Prior surname. I got so excited about that one. I talked about it twice. So this is a lot of information that's not really going to majorly affect all of us in our day-to-day, but you may need it. So I wanted to let you know that CAR.org in the legal department has a ton to break down all the new laws and then goes into the specific new laws much more in detail, much more expertise than I possess. If for some reason, which I do not recommend, verify all with your broker. If you need to get into the actual legislature and look at the actual laws and bills, you can go to legalinfo@legislature.ca.gov. I'm a huge fan, as we know, because Tommy puts us up every week. So we are building our own YouTube channel ourselves, going and checking out the different associations and all their meetings. They do a lot of posting. C.A.R. just hosted down here a great seminar that was open. Gov Hutchinson, because right now C.A.R. has them on no travel. So Gov Hutchinson recorded a Zoom call to the meeting that is posted, going through all of the new laws and everything along those lines. I watched that. That's the link to that one as well. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and upload them here into the chat. I've got a couple of different PDFs that I pulled, but it was pretty much, those were the big spotlights that affect us. SB 9, I'm gonna put a PDF up into the chat. I am not an expert in this, and from what I read this morning going through, there's already pushback from certain counties. There's a lot of issue around that. I would definitely defer you to your broker, to title, talking about when you're splitting, what properties are able to do what. There is some that if you choose to do the ADU versus if you do the multi-unit, but you can only do one of the two. And there's a lot of rules and regs in there that I don't think everybody's understanding. So I'm not going to claim to be an expert, and definitely want to direct you to others that are much more informed on this topic than I am.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk right now on that subject as far as adding of ADUs and casitas, splitting lots because you have 2 acres and you don't need all the 2 acres and you want to build another unit on the second one to sell it, etc. I deal with this on a weekly. I have a team I work with that is solely focused on that as well. So if anybody has questions, again, feel free to reach out to me direct.
Doing a lot of research on the ADUs, they can, and even the junior ADUs where you use your garage, they are amazing value changer in your property. Even if you wind up putting in like 250, some of the recovery costs are close to 500,000 locally.
Yeah, and every county is a little different when it comes to an ADU, and really it's interesting to see because a lot of people don't understand, but like and really it comes down to the cities. I shouldn't say county, it comes down to the cities. But a lot of the cities, if you keep your ADUs under 500 square feet, if it hits 500 square feet, it won't work. But if you do it to 499 square feet, it will not trigger a reassessment of your current property. So therefore your tax bill does not increase. And a lot of people are looking at that and saying, whoa, okay, well, I'm going to take, 5, 10, 15, 50 square feet away from it and maybe add more patio space or something like that has a covered patio or something to add outside living instead of inside living in it. Because, that's huge when you're sitting on, let's just call it maybe $600,000 property, and that property value is assessed at maybe 490,000, and then you put an ADU, if it goes above that and they reassess it at 675,000, that's a huge jump, right, in your tax bill. So really doing your research to know that, and the fast track of permits. Right now almost every single city in Southern California is given a fast track for permits, where if you were building something new, it may take you 6 to 9 months to get your permits. If you're doing an ADU, you can get them in 30, 60 days.
Well, they've already got, they've got plans on file.
San Diego has 12 already plans laid out that if you choose one of those plans,
boom,
you're no permit fees, nothing, straight through. So
yeah, the rental space is fierce everywhere, where there's not enough rentals for the amount of renters in an area. So they're doing everything that they could possibly do to react to how can we, solve an issue, right? And, there are quite a few cities out there and counties out there that are giving you breaks. I won't call it a tax break, but I'll call it, fee break, where they're not charging you for your permits and things like that. They're fast tracking you to be able to, break ground sooner and get it built sooner, et cetera. And yeah, it's definitely a talk of conversation right now in almost every single city you're in.
Well, and I know it's an issue. I'm over by San Diego State adjacent, and I remember back in the day when they did the mini dorms and then they got all kicked out, and now people are going back to it. And I think this is going to get more pushback, and I think we're going to see some revisions or modifications to it over the next year, 2 years, but it's going to take a while, as always with everything.
Yep.
A little talk about the parking piece of that as well. Just another thought of mine. We had some conversation about that.
So I have literally the chat with 5 different PDFs that are from C.A.R. of the slide deck, information about the new laws, everything to go through. I am not an expert in this in any way, shape, or form. I'm just regurgitating, like I said, what I read and trying to just understand. I would expect we're going to have some new forums coming in June. We still have that ongoing issue with the fire home hardening, so definitely verify all that with your broker and make sure the HOAs know they have to give it to you in email. Those are the biggest takeaways. And you can use your other name. Just make sure C.A.R. knows how to DRE, which one knows how to get a hold of you.
Yeah, and just to bring it up again, we did the whole home hardening class again, and that recording is on the YouTube page. I put that in the chat. You guys can go there. We have, I think, about 70 Zoom and Learn trainings there now. So you can almost find things on almost any topic. And some of them were important enough to go over again, like the laws and home hardening. So, because new things come to light and stuff like that. So I would suggest that, go to the chat. You can go there, subscribe to the channel. You'll get updates, whenever we put a new video up on there. This recording will be up within an hour of it ending always. So, you can always go back to it. If you forget things that you saw here today, you can always go back to it. And, if you have any questions, you can ask them there in the chat when you're watching the video, and we'll get back to you. Or you can reach out to Sam direct. You can reach out to Mary Jane direct. You can reach out to myself direct. So if we can't answer your question, we know who we can go to get the answers. So, we don't want you guys to be on a guessing game. If you need answers, we'll help you find them.
Yes, we will. This is a lighter day. I'm grateful for that. I think the defensible space last year, followed by the RPA, pretty well took care of bending our brains anyway. I am going to circle back one more time for those who joined us late. The 16th page of the RPA, where the delivery method is not being completed by agents. I have now looked at more than 50 contracts where nobody has put in where they want their emails and text messages to go for the entire transaction. This is an agent failure, and you have, the form's called, I think, receipt and delivery for notices. If similar for the transaction coordinators here to us all having to do the agency cleanup on page 1, where you just see it's wrong and you just automatically do the cleanup.
Confirmation of agency.
I think you're going to have to throw in the receipt and delivery for notices again for your agents who leave it out. But just from my escrow officer's perspective, without this piece, they can't call you, they can't email you, they can't give you your escrow number. I got a frantic call this week about it. Sam, I had a question for you on that, on the I'm changing subjects now, if you want to stop recording, Tommy, for that.
Yep.
For that
Before we do that, let's hold that thought, MJ.
yeah.
And let's, before we stop the recording, fill everybody in with what next week's training is.
Oh, yes. Next week, we're going to re-record solar. We're going to talk about when escrow does it, when they don't, and the couple of kind of contracts that you are going to see out there, and how to get ahead of it and stay ahead of it. And once you've got that little formula down at the very beginning, the entire process will roll out much better going forward for you. So I'll be teaching next week on solar and solar transfers and solar purchases next week.
Perfect. All right. Well, we hope everybody will join us for that next week. And again, thank you all for joining us.